अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकीम्। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वेभ्यो नमः। Welcome to this session. We are now in the middle of the 14th chapter. We have been understanding how the three gunas of Prakriti influence us. Sri Bhagavan is always above those three gunas of Prakriti. In the last session, we saw this depiction. The three gunas are sattva, rajas, and tamas. We talked about the qualities, how Sri Bhagavan's Prakriti operates in this world using the three gunas. All of the entities are under the influence of the gunas, and together the three gunas bind us to material existence. The influence of all the gunas is present at all times, but at any one time, one guna predominates the other two on each of us. But Sri Bhagavan is above the three gunas. Then we also spend time trying to understand the symptoms of the influences of the three gunas on us and others, by which we can identify at any point of time which guna is acting upon us. What is our eventual goal? Our goal is to be under the influence of sattva-guna as much as we can, and to even go beyond sattva-guna. So, the various dimensions of these symptoms, the life purpose and goal, how we think about the goal, the mental state of a person, the clarity of thought, etc., the outward orientation, and the personal likings. In the context of sattva, there is calmness and peace, there is inner clarity, there is sustained concentration, there is stability, there is a natural sense of happiness, of tolerance, and there is harmony with the outside. There is a liking for knowledge, liking for balance, liking for going beyond the mundane things, and so on. In the case of rajas, we see that the symptoms are things like craving for material enjoyment, excessive craving and greed for more and more, discontentment with the current state, always wanting something different, always wanting change. And this also becomes a disturbance for others very often. There is no long-term stability. Stability, even if it comes, it's for only some time until the next desire drives us to do something different. So the liking for mundane is a very strong characteristic of the influence of rajas. Under the influence of tamas, there is complete darkness. Darkness means there is no clear sense of purpose in life. There is ambiguity in whatever we do, and there is mistaking the right thing for the wrong thing and wrong thing for the right thing. There is very low tolerance, high irritability, a lot of hatred towards others, liking for sleep, indolence, negligence, etc. These become a dominant part of one's life under the influence of tamas. So, the immediate short term goal of life is to be free from rajas and tamas and try to exist in the state of sattva as much as possible. Increase sattva in oneself and decrease rajas and tamas by following the practices of dharma. That is what the Bhagavad-Gita teaches. But the Gita teaches us that we should actually aim to go beyond the three gunas of Prakriti and not be under the influence of any of them. So, but first we will talk about, in fact, we talked about this in the last class, what kind of things should we do? And very briefly, we looked at five dimensions: the dimension of diet, that of sleep, then work, recreation, and spirituality. Five different dimensions along which simple adjustments, like for example, under diet, having food that is fresh, light, and juicy, vegetarian food with pleasant taste is prone to sattvic, to become more sattvic, whereas food that is too pungent, spicy, hard, stale, non-vegetarian food, etc., is more prone towards rajas and tamas. Sleeping adequately, unbroken sleep, good rest, resting early, rising early in the morning is prone to becoming more sattvic, whereas sleeping late, rising late, sleeping and waking up at arbitrary times, broken sleep, improper sleep, these are fosterers or drivers of rajas and tamas. For work, working with a sense of duty, working because there is a duty to do, happiness in accomplishing one's duty, that with a freedom from greed or attachment to the results, is prone to sattva, whereas working with a focus on self profit, selfishness, what is in it for me, thinking like that, craving for more and more, greed for more, is prone to more rajas and tamas. Good recreation, such as physical fitness done on a consistent basis, all kinds of sports, walking, not too much, neither too less, unless it's your profession, is very prone to becoming sattvic. Similarly, no recreation at all or arbitrary indulgence in recreation, aimless recreation, is prone to rajas and tamas. And spirituality, systematic sadhana, adhyatma sadhana, meditating upon Sri Bhagavan, meditating upon oneself as a servant of Bhagavan, doing japa of the names of Bhagavan, studying the Shastra. These are all practices which help us to become free from rajas and tamas and become sattvic, whereas no sadhana or arbitrarily done sadhana and arbitrary study of the Shastra, that is more prone to rajas and tamas. And of course, these things reinforce each other. When we do activities which are rajasic, we become more rajasic, and that in turn makes us do other activities which are rajasic. So they reinforce each other, and the same applies to sattvic practices. When we live a sattvic life, then we develop the inclination to become even more sattvic, and that feeds itself in the long term. Now, after having known and seen all this, seeing all this in the 14th chapter, we do six more shlokas in the 14th chapter. Uh, we begin with the 21st shloka of the 14th chapter. Arjuna uvacha kairlingais strin gunanetan atito bhavati prabho kimacharak katam chaitan strin gunanati vartate. Arjuna said, O Prabho, by what characteristics can it be known that one has gone beyond the three gunas? What is the conduct of such a person? And how does one go beyond the three gunas? So now the focus has gone from becoming sattvic to even going beyond sattva guna, going beyond all the three gunas. And here Arjuna initiates that discussion with asking three questions. The first question is, what are the characteristics of a person who has gone beyond the gunas? The second question is, what is the conduct of such a person? And finally, he says, how can one actually go beyond the three gunas? In response, Sri Bhagavan answers the first question with just one shloka. He says, Sri Bhagavan uvacha prakashancha pravrittincha moham evacha pandava nadveshti sampravrittani nivrittani kankshati. Sri Bhagavan said, O Pandava, referring to Arjuna, one who neither despises the respective effects of sattva, rajas, and tamas, such as illumination for sattva, the pursuit of material activities for rajas, and delusion, the effect of tamas, when they appear by themselves, when these effects appear by themselves, nor hankers for them when they disappear. Such a person is said to have gone beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. In other words, these effects of the three gunas appear on our body because our body is, after all, material. So, even a person who has actually gone beyond the three gunas will see that his body sometimes is subject to tamo-guna, sometimes to rajo-guna, sometimes to sattva, but he becomes detached. He just observes them and he doesn't hanker for those effects, nor does he despise them, nor does he say, I feel so bad that my body is undergoing this. He just tolerates because he is himself beyond that. His consciousness is free from the effects of all the three gunas. It's always experiencing a sense of inner joy, contentment, happiness. So he just tolerates the effects as he sees them. He doesn't get disturbed by them. So this is the essential characteristic of a person who has gone beyond the three gunas. He is called Trigunatita. That word Trigunatita is used to refer to such a person. Then Sri Bhagavan says, he answers the second question now with three shlokas. The first one is here. Udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate gunavartanta ityeva yovatishtati nengate. One who is situated as if indifferent and neutral, who is not shaken by the three gunas, who, seeing that it's the three gunas that are present in everything, remains firmly situated and unaffected, is said to have gone beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. So, very extending what we heard in the previous shloka, such a person, his conduct is as if he is completely indifferent and neutral. Means, even if the body undergoes some kind of suffering, he may experience some jolt for some time, but immediately he is able to withdraw his consciousness from that bodily suffering and become situated again within himself with full consciousness of the presence of Sri Bhagavan and his own pure self as being not material. He is able to experience a clear mind, a clear consciousness, and observe everything as it is. So he also knows when he sees others being influenced by these gunas in their behavior, in their happiness, in their suffering. For example, sometimes you see a person very happy going to a party, dancing in the party, drinking, enjoying. You also go to another place, you see a beggar on the street who is lying there without proper food, clothing, hungry, desperately looking for help. So you see both suffering and enjoyment happening, but the person who is beyond the three gunas of Prakriti is able to see them as just the effects of the gunas. And he therefore either neither feels any great lamentation for the person who is suffering. He feels compassion, of course, uh, but he doesn't feel distressed, nor does he feel disturbed by somebody who is enjoying. He feels compassion upon such a person too. So he feels a sense of unity and compassion towards everybody and wishes them that they also are able to understand their real self and able to go beyond it and become free from the gunas of Prakriti. So he's neither disturbed by those who are happy, nor by those who are suffering, nor by somebody who praises him, nor by somebody who insults him. He becomes neutral to everything and experiences complete contentment and joy within himself. Then Sri Bhagavan says, Samadukha sukas swastaha, Samadukha sukas swastaha, Samaloshtasma kanchanaha, Tulya priya priyo dhiraha, Tulya nindatma sanstutihi. One who is situated in one's own self and thereby sees pleasurable and miserable situations equally, sees mud, stone, and gold equally, sees likable and unlikable situations equally, is steady and treats praise and ridicule equally, is said to have gone beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. मानापमानयोस्तुल्यः तुल्यो मित्रारिपक्षयोः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी गुणातीतः स उच्यते. One who treats honor and dishonor as equal, one who treats friendly and inimical people equally, and who comprehensively rejects the pursuit of material enjoyment, is said to have gone beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. So we see this quality very rarely in this world. In most cases, we see people who are inclined towards those who honor them, those who praise them, those who are very friendly towards them. And we see them being against, standing up against people who are not so respectful to them or who are sometimes inimical to them. They oppose them, they do, unfair things to them, etc. But the person who is beyond the three gunas of Prakriti, he treats everybody equally. As a matter of his duty, he does what is the right thing to do and avoids what the wrong thing is. He knows that I should do this towards so and so, even if he is my enemy. If this is going to be the right thing to do, this may benefit him. But even if he is my enemy, it doesn't matter to me. Let it benefit him. It's the right thing for me to do. Similarly, if somebody is a friend, but a situation requires that he be unfavorable to that friend, he take a decision by which that friend doesn't experience the best returns, then he will do that. He will not go out of his way to break some rules to help somebody just because that person is friendly towards him or he honors him, respects him. He doesn't have any special regard for that respect from somebody who's friendly, or disregard for that, or regard for, or you can say hatred towards that disrespect from somebody who's not so respectful towards him. So, in this way, this neutrality is the basis on which he lives through his life in a very fair and just manner towards everybody. That is why this ethics that the Bhagavad Gita teaches us is based on the real nature of the self. It is not some artificial logic based ethics which says that if you are ethical then you will be more sustainable. Okay, Western ethics comes like that. It just gives us a logic that if you become more ethical then the whole world will be sustainable, and sustainability is the goal of life. But the Gita goes much deeper than that. It says that the real nature of the self is to be like this, and we should discover that nature within us. By doing the practices of dharma, we discover that nature and become naturally established in it. And once we are established in it, then naturally we are ethical. We don't have to use logic to become ethical. We don't have to be logically ethical. We become naturally ethical, and whatever we do becomes fair, just towards everybody. There's no injustice from our side. And then Sri Bhagavan answers the third question that Arjuna has asked. How do we go beyond the three gunas of Prakriti? So Sri Bhagavan says, Mam cha yo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Mam cha yo vyabhichareణ bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. It's a very famous shloka in the Gita. It says, one who serves me, Sri Bhagavan, exclusively through the process of bhakti yoga, that is non transient but steady, goes beyond the three gunas of Prakriti and becomes eligible to experience Brahman. Brahman means Sri Bhagavan or Paramatma. So he is pointing out that the process for going beyond the three gunas of Prakriti is bhakti towards him. Now, what is meant by bhakti? As we said earlier, bhakti means conducting oneself in accordance with the principles of dharma that are pleasing to Sri Bhagavan. The goal is to be aligned to Sri Bhagavan's pleasure. What makes him happy? What makes him happy? Dharma makes him happy. Understanding what is correct, what is wrong, and acting by that. Becoming free from hatred towards others, bearing no jealousy towards anyone, freeing oneself, even if one feels an emotion of jealousy arising within the heart, then consciously rejecting that, freeing oneself from that jealousy, and establishing oneself in a sense of complete neutrality, becoming committed to saying that I will do what Sri Bhagavan likes, even if it means discomfort to myself. Okay, this is called bhakti. Bhakti is living a life of purity, becoming free from all kinds of bad qualities and developing those good qualities which make Sri Bhagavan happy. Living a very normal life, doing all normal activities, but with these qualities instead of the earlier, qualities that we possibly had. So this is bhakti, and by practicing bhakti with the consciousness that it is pleasing to Bhagavan, one goes beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. So a very fundamental question comes: why is it that only by practicing bhakti one goes beyond the three gunas of Prakriti? Why not something else? Like, for example, we see yogis doing great tapasya, doing pranayam, fasting. They do, enormous amount of standing in the cold, standing in the sun, sitting and meditating on some mantra for hours together, and so on. Such a person may not be doing bhakti, but is doing a lot of tapasya. So why can't that tapasya take us out of the three gunas of Prakriti? The answer is very simple, that bhakti is what directly connects us to Bhagavan, and it is Sri Bhagavan who is beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. So, to be able to go beyond the three gunas of Prakriti, we need to be connected to that source, which is also beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. Just like if I have to make my electronic device function, then I have to connect it to the source of power. It requires power to function, electrical power, right? Which then gets converted into electronic power or electronic signals, and they then make the device work. So to make the electronic device work, I need a source of power. And where is that power? That power is available in some source, and it's available to me in my house or in my office through certain power points. So if I plug into those power points, then that power comes to me, and then the device functions. Exactly in the same manner, Sri Bhagavan is that source of freedom from the three gunas, because he is himself beyond the three gunas. Now, free when we are independent of him, when we are not connected to him, it is impossible because we are always under the influence of the three gunas of Prakriti, and we cannot go beyond those three gunas by ourselves. But simply by connecting to him, we instantly go beyond the gunas of Prakriti, and the process for connecting with him is Bhakti Yoga, right? It's as simple as that. So by doing Bhakti Yoga alone, one is able to go beyond the three gunas of Prakriti and experience one's true self and the happiness and knowledge that the true self has got. So this is the message of the 14th chapter about the three gunas of Prakriti and going beyond. And with this shloka, the 26th shloka of the 14th chapter, Sri Bhagavan has answered the three questions that Arjuna asked. Now there is one more shloka in the 14th chapter, the 27th shloka, which talks about where Sri Bhagavan concludes the 14th chapter, and he explains there that he is the basis of that Brahman. Now, in the 26th shloka, as you can see here, he says one becomes eligible to experience Brahman. What is meant by Brahman? Brahman is a word used to refer to that same Sri Bhagavan by people whose understanding of Bhagavan is that it is some big, huge energy, some conscious living being. It's a conscious being, and that conscious being or that consciousness is what I should eventually attain. I should be able to make my consciousness one with that consciousness. People with this understanding of Bhagavan refer to that Bhagavan as Brahman. That's all. Brahman and Bhagavan are the same entity. They are not different entities. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan are the same entity. So to experience that Brahman, one has to do bhakti, and only then one can experience that Brahman. So this is the message of the 14th chapter, and there is one more shloka which we will do in the next class. Now, we should always remember that Sri Bhagavan conducts himself when he manifests on this earth. He conducts himself like an ordinary human being, but he is never a human being. He is always above the three gunas of Prakriti. He never comes under the three gunas of Prakriti. The three gunas are always subservient to him. So, in this connection, we have been listening to Sri Krishna Lila from the Bhagavatam, and we've heard from the Dashamaskanda of Bhagavatam how Sri Krishna manifested himself in a prison house in this Krishna avatara. He is carried to Gokula on the same night by his father Vasudeva. And in Gokula, he does various leelas, beginning with the liberation of Putana. He then breaks a huge cart, Shakata Banjana. Then he liberates the asura called Trinavarta. Then there is the Namakaran Leela performed by Sri Gargacharya. Then he shows the Vishwarupa to Mother Yashoda. Then he performs various Balya Leelas, which are also the activities of mischief in Gokula. And then the Damodar Leela, where Mother Yashoda binds him to that mortar. He then knocks down two trees, and that's called the Yamalarjuna Leela. Then the Gopas move to Vrindavan from Gokula because they consider it not very safe to be in Gokula anymore. Then in Vrindavan, so many playful activities that Sri Bhagavan performs with his Gopas, the Gopa friends, with the animals like monkeys, deer, and so on, are all described in the Bhagavatam. Then in the last session, we heard two more Leelas, the Vatsasura Mochana Leela and the Bakasura Mochana Leela, in which Sri Bhagavan kills and liberates two asuras, Vatsasura, who came in the form of a calf, and Bakasura, who came in the form of a huge crane. So these two asuras were also liberated. And now, in today's session, we listen to yet another Leela of Sri Bhagavan. It's called the Aghasura Mochana Leela, the liberation of Aghasura. So this Leela proceeds as follows. Once, one fine day, little Krishna, okay, he's just short of 5 years of age. He's not yet 5 years, just short of 5 years of age. Little Krishna wakes up and decides to eat his breakfast in the forest itself. Normally, he would have it at home and go, but now on this day, he decides to have it in the forest itself. So he quickly wakes up his Gopa friends with the charming sound of his horn, which is also called Shringa. He then leaves with them to the forest, keeping the calves at the front. Several joyful Gopas go along, taking their flutes, horns, and other toys with them. And as they go along, They play with each other. Their calves mix with Krishna's calves, and they enjoy the fun of playing. And there is excitement, laughter, happiness all around. So a huge number of gopas are going along, and Sri Vasudev ji, he observes this. He says, "Ittam satam brahma sukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena mayashritanam naradarakena sakam vijahruhu kritapunya punjaha." This is in the 12th chapter of the Dashama Skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, saintly jnanis experience Sri Bhagavan in the form Bhagavan in the joy of Brahman realization. They do tapasya, they experience Brahman. The bhaktas who offer themselves as his servants know him as their supreme deity. Those under the influence of Maya see him as the son of a human being. But these gopas who are now playing with him, they have accumulated merit of purity and they freely roam and play with him. So, this is what happened. Even when great yogis are doing tapasya, trying to glimpse him for several lifetimes, they are not able to see him. But here are these little boys, they are just playing with him like their own friend. Yat pada pamsur bahujanma krichrato धृतात्मभिर्योग योगिभिरप्यलभ्यः स एव यद् दृग्विषयः स्वयं स्थितः किं वर्ण्यते दिष्टमतो व्रजौकसाम्. The dust of his feet is not obtained by the yogis even after severe penance over several lifetimes. That same person is now personally present before these little boys, the Gopas. Who can describe the great fortune of the residents of Vraja? Then what happens? A very fearsome and wicked asura by name Agha appears there in the midst of these boys as a huge snake. This asura is so wicked that he cannot tolerate the children's joy. When he sees them happy, his heart burns with envy and anger. Even the devas who have long lives, who live in the Swargaloka, they fear this asura and they are eager to see him dead. Aghasura is the younger brother of Putana and Bakasura, and as such, he seeks revenge on Krishna because Krishna has killed Putana and Bakasura earlier. So he lies on the road before the boys with an open mouth. His body is huge, his snout is touching the skies, and his mouth looks like some huge cave. The children see him as they go along and they speculate with each other about what is it that they are seeing. They can't make out. And speculating on what it is, they playfully enter his huge cave like mouth. Except Krishna, all the boys enter his mouth. Even as Krishna is watching, suddenly he sees all the boys inside the mouth of Agasura. But Agasura does not immediately swallow them. He waits for Krishna to enter. Krishna worries, how can I protect them? This thought immediately comes to his mind because Krishna is Sarva Jagat Hitaya. He exists for the hita of the world. He wants to eagerly help everybody. How can I protect them and kill Agasura at the same time? Because now these boys are inside the body of Agasura. If he kills Agasura, he knows that the boys also may be harmed. And therefore, he wants to do something by which he can kill Agasura but not harm the boys. He thinks for some time and he finds the answer because he is all knowing. So then he himself enters the mouth of Agasura. He enters the mouth of Agasura, then what does he do? Krishna immediately expands his body to a massive size in the throat of Agasura. Even before Agasura can close his mouth, he expands himself. He has reached the throat of that snake and he expands his body. Just like in the Vamana Avatara, we have heard about the Vamana Leela of Bhagavan in front of Bali, the king Bali. When Bali offers him, you can claim whatever you like. Shri Bhagavan says, I just want 3 steps of land. And then Bali says, oh, what a insignificant thing you are asking me. I am such a big king that I can give you anything that you ask for. But Shri Bhagavan says, no, just give me land enough to occupy 3 steps of my feet. And then Bali says yes, and in response, Sri Bhagavan then expands himself. He expands himself so huge that Bali is now completely, speechless. He doesn't know what to do, how to respond to that. And similarly, here in the throat of Aghasura, he expands himself. And as he expands himself, what happens? ततोऽतिकायस्य निरुद्धमार्गिणो युत्कीर्णदृष्टेर्भ्रमतस्वितस्ततः पूर्णोऽन्तरङ्गे पवनो निरुद्धो मूर्धन्विनिर्भित्य विनिर्गतो बहिः. What happened to Aghasura is described here. The prana of that huge snake was blocked and filled his entire body. His eyes rolled wildly in confusion. Finally, the prana left his body, piercing the top of his head. Aghasura was killed. तेनैव सर्वेषु बहिर्गतेषु प्राणेषु वत्सान् सुहृदः परेतान् दृष्ट्या स्वयोत्थाप्य तदन्वितः पुनः वक्त्रान् मुकुन्दो भगवान् विनिर्ययौ. After the prana left the snake's body, Krishna restored his dear friends and their calves to life and left the open mouth of the snake with them. So Krishna brought back his friends to life. पीना हि भोगोत्थितमद्भुतं महत् ज्योतिस्वधाम्ना ज्वलयद्दिशो दश प्रतीक्ष्य खेव स्थितमीश निर्गमं विवेश तस्मिन् मिषतां दिवौकसाम्. So what happened to Aghasura? What happened to that Jivatma who was in the body of Aghasura, which left the body when that happened? That is described here. An enormous light, a jyoti, appeared from the body of that massive snake and hung in the sky, illuminating all the 10 directions. It waited for Krishna to exit the snake's body and then merged into him, even as the Devas watched from above. So Aghasura was killed, and Aghasura was actually a pure Jivatma like each of us. You see, each of us is a Jivatma in different bodies. So this was this Jivatma in the body of that wicked Aghasura. So as soon as Krishna killed him, the Jivatma left that body and went into the sky and hung in the sky. And the bright, it hung like a bright light, and that was seen by everybody. The Gopas saw it, the Devas saw it. It illuminated all the directions, and it waited for Krishna to come out of the body of the snake. Krishna had not yet come out at that time. But when Krishna came out, that light merged into the body of Aghasura, of Krishna, and thereby Aghasura obtained Sayujya Mukti, what is called the Sayujya Mukti. Aghasura was liberated from this material existence. This is the compassion that Krishna gives even to the people who are wicked towards him, who come to kill him, to harm him. So at this, there is happiness all over the universe. The Devas were eagerly waiting to see him dead, and now he's dead, and they rejoice, they celebrate, and Sri Brahma personally appears there to see the scene. And Sri Brahma is astonished to know that a small boy, a village boy, has killed a huge asura who was threatening the residents of the universe. Aghasura's cavernous body dries up in course of time and becomes a fun place for the Vrajavasis. So eventually, the Vrajavasis they go and exploit the leftover remnants of that body. That body becomes dried up. It becomes like a mountain, a cave in the mountain, and it becomes a place of recreation for them. Now, this Aghasura Leela happened towards the end of Sri Krishna's Kaumara Avastha. Means, you see, our lifespan is divided into various stages. The very first stage is called Kaumaram. Kaumaram is that age between the time of birth, 0 to 5 years of age, till the completion of 5 years of age. One is called a Kumara or a Kumari if it's a girl. And this avastha, this situation is called a Kaumara Avastha. Kaumara Avastha. Then one enters what is called the Pauganda Avastha. One is called a Poganda from the age of 6, from the age of 5, at the end of 5 years, to the end of 16 years. From the end of 5 to the end of 16, that 11-year period is called Poganda. One is called a Poganda, and that Avastha is called a Pauganda Avastha. So When Aghasura was killed, Sri Krishna was in his Kaumara Avastha, towards the end of his Kaumara Avastha, and shortly after this, he became 5 years of age. He completed 5 years of age. So you can imagine Krishna and the other Gopas, very tiny little boys, doing these wonderful activities. But the Gopas reported that incident of Aghasura's death after a year, after 1 year had passed, and during which his Paugandavastha was going on. Already 1 year, nearly 1 year of Paugandavastha had taken place. So, this is an astonishing fact because normally, like we said in the context of Vatsasura and Bakasura's death in the previous chapter, in the last session, they went to their parents on the same day after Bakasura was killed, and they reported very excitedly to their parents that this is what happened today. And the parents were so astonished and amazed to hear that Krishna had killed a big asura in the form of a crane. But now, after Aghasura was killed, they did not report this for one full year. After 1 year, they reported to their parents. Why was that? So, this question will be answered in the next session because we are going to hear another amazing Leela that Sri Bhagavan performed. That's called the Brahma Vimochana Leela, or Brahma Vimoha Leela. Sorry, Brahma Vimoha Leela, in which Sri Brahma and Sri Krishna together perform a Leela. Sri Brahma is shown Krishna's real character in that Leela. So please ensure that you are there to hear that Leela in the next session. So, with this, we will stop today's session. I'll just conclude by saying that by listening to the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam together, we purify our own consciousness. And that is the purpose of these Shastra. These Granthas are written by Sri Vyasdevji. Both of them, the Gita and the Bhagavatam, are written by the same author, Sri Vyasdevji. And he has given us these Granthas to purify us, to make us come to a happier state of existence than we are currently in. Learn how to cope with this life and go beyond that, not just cope with this life, but go beyond that and experience our true self, true happiness, even living in this life, performing our duties, and living in the normal society. So, with this, I will stop, and I will invite your questions, your comments, your reflections on whatever we heard. I'm sure many of you have something or the other to ask and tell me.
Pranam, sir.
Pranam, pranam.
I wanted to ask about Sir Poganda Avastha. What does it mean exactly?
It's a term used to denote a person between the age of 5 and 16. So once somebody is 5 years of age, they enter the age known as Pauganda Avastha. And, you know, they are called like that. They're called as Pauganda till they are 16 years of age. And then they are called Yauvana. That Avastha is called Yauvana Avastha from the age of 16 onwards. They are called Yuvaka from that point onwards, or Yuvati.
Okay.
If it's a girl, we say Yuvati. If it's a boy, we say Yuvakaha. So
So I
16
had
onwards.
another. Sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I just said from
Hello.
16 years onwards that term is used. Yes, you can tell me your next question.
So I just this is something that I've heard in Katha, Sri Bhagavad Katha. I've heard this that people of Brij did not really consider or saw Sri Bhagwan as Bhagwan. They never really believed that he is Sri Bhagwan himself. They always treated him as their friend, या फिर their son. That is the bhav they had towards Sri Bhagwan. Even if Sri Bhagwan tried to make like even if he said something that okay I am Sri Bhagwan, they never believed it. Is that so? Is that the bhav? And is it how it's mentioned in Sri Bhagavad Gita?
Yes. In Vrajbhav, the residents of Vraja who are in that bhav, they don't consciously, they are not consciously aware of Sri Bhagavan's nature as the Ishwar, as the Parameshwar. Although they have that knowledge in the subconscious mind, but consciously they are not aware of it, or it doesn't matter to them. It's insignificant. For them, what matters is that he is ours in some way. Like in some cases, he is their son. So somebody else, he is the friend, close friend. To all of them, he is extremely dear as something, son, friend, or as an intimate partner, like in the case of the gopis, and so on. So this is because this bhav is not something that, I know you didn't ask this question, but it's important to mention here that this bhav is not something that we can create by imagination. We should not imagine ourselves to be having that bhav. Rather, it is something that develops by virtue of purity. So, what is meant by purity? Purity means becoming free from all kinds of hatred, envy, jealousy towards anybody in general, towards this world, and developing a positive mentality towards this entire world, learning to see everything as a part of Sri Bhagavan, and learning to see this world in terms through the lens of his principles, the principles of dharma, acting and living by the principles of dharma for his pleasure, and craving for that love that he feels. He feels a natural love called prema towards everything, and craving for that love for oneself, craving that I should also have that love just like he has towards everybody. I should also be able to love this entire universe like the way he does, which means trying to become like him in quality, trying to develop his mentality. So when one does all that and one develops that prema, then naturally he manifests himself to that person in that form which the Vrajavasis see. Otherwise, he does not. He does not manifest himself like that. So for us in our current condition, we are not at that level of purity. We can try to become like that. We should not imagine ourselves as having that power. We should not say, think that, okay, now Krishna is my little son. I will feed him milk. I will do this, that. I've seen people talking like that. Ordinary people like you and me talking like that, which is incorrect, which goes against the principles of Dharma. One should not create that by imagination. Instead, one should perform sadhana thinking of him as the Ishwar. He is the master. From his by his kripa, we develop that bhakti. We get prema, right? And when that prema naturally comes as a result of bhakti, by serving one's guru, by serving Sri Bhagwan, then naturally that bhav develops, that vision develops.
So a lot of people, what if this bhav comes naturally to you? Because this is one thing. What if it comes naturally? Also, a lot of people in India treat him as do his seva as Bal Gopal. They have Bal Gopal, form of Bal Gopal in their homes, and then
Yeah,
they do seva with seva. So
yeah,
is
yeah.
that
No, there's nothing wrong because even in so many temples, like I went to Udupi 2 weeks back, I was in Udupi, and in Udupi, he's worshipped as a form of Balagopal. Not the crawling Balagopal, which is seen in many people's houses as Laddu Gopal, but the standing Balagopal. He's holding a churning rod in his hand. It represents him in this Kaumara Leela, where he's holding a churning rod in one hand, in the right hand, and in the left hand he's holding the rope which is used to tie that churning rod. And so he's worshipped in Udupi like that. But at the same time, even though he is worshipped as Balagopal in so many places, the correct way to see that Balagopal is not as my son, but as my Ishwar. He is my Ishwar appearing in that form. And I am his servant. I am a small particle of dust at his feet. That's my craving. I crave to be that particle of dust at his feet. Like Sri Mahaprabhu prays in the Shikshashtakam, he says, you know, Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Ma Mishame Bhavam Budhav Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya. Please consider me as a particle of dust at your lotus like feet, he says. So this is the mentality. Regardless of how you think about Krishna, whether you think about him as a Balagopal or as Parthasarathi standing in front of Arjuna or as Narasimha who came out of the pillar and killed Hiranyakashipu, in whichever form you think about him, you always think about him as as somebody for whom you are just a small particle of dust at lotus feet. That is the correct way to think about him.
understood, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, because we are in the stage of sadhana. I'm giving you a simple analogy to explain what sadhana means. Sadhana simply means practice. In simple translation, let's take a sportsman. Okay, somebody who's become a sportsman, how did he become a sportsman? He became by doing a lot of practice. At a point when he started out, he probably could not do much of what he is doing now. He could just maybe hold the racket or kick the ball in some arbitrary manner. But by practice, not by imagination, not by imagining himself to be a sportsman. Of course, visualization is a part of sports. Visualizing is very important in anything, even in bhakti. Visualizing oneself as doing seva is very important. But mere visualization or imagination won't do the job. Practice, doing actual hands on activity of sadhana, whether it is sports or it is bhakti, hands on activity saying that, okay, I will do japa, I will, do puja, I will visit the temple, or I will do shastra, studying of the shastra, apply my mind, or whatever way. There are so many hundreds of ways by which seva is done. So, actual practice constitutes sadhana, and eventually that practice leads to the consciousness of that bhav, that sthai bhav, in which one naturally relates to Bhagavan in a very in a very natural form. So sadhana is very important. Sadhana is the basis for us to make to achieve that consciousness.
Understood, sir. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to more questions from anyone. We have some time today.
So just one more thing.
Yeah, Richa.
If you remember, you mentioned that we can have Kirtan Sandhya or something like that, Nam Jap Sandhya, if possible. So if you ever plan to do that, I would love to join.
In the institute.
Yes, yes, like how we did it on Janmashtami. If you remember, you said we can
Yeah,
plan something similar on like maybe weekends or some in the morning sometime. Just simple Nam Jap Kirtan if possible.
it's true. We can do that. We can discuss. It should be student driven, because students are the life of this institute, right? Just like the atma
Absolutely.
is the life of the body. So the students should run it, and I will give my guidance and support for that.
Understood. Okay. Okay.
But we can
Let me
discuss it.
try.
We can discuss it. Meet me sometime. We can discuss how to make it happen.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
I'll go through.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Namaskar, sir. Niharika this side.
Yes, Niharika. After a long time, you're back.
Yeah, I've been off, but my health.
Yeah, I
We've
understand.
been also having Damodar Artis on weekends
Hmm.
generally around because of the
Ka-
Kartik month.
Karthik month is going on. Yes, now.
Yeah, so a lot of Damodar Artis happening around in our this thing.
Hmm.
So today I didn't go, so today I got into this class.
Yeah. Nice.
Sir, one question is, and I think this is a thoda sa chronic question that comes to my mind every time we discuss gunas.
Yeah.
When you speak about the three gunas, I think tamas is quite obvious in most of the things. To
Yeah.
me personally, that
Hmm.
this is tamas, and this is not the genre we should get into.
Yeah.
But when it comes to rajas and sattva, on a day-to-day basis of
Hmm.
rendering duties, work, at workplace or at personal life,
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to comprehend how do you detach yourself. So how do you sort of detach yourself from the uh, uh, you know your when we say that we must not be attached to the result or I mean if we can go to that slide, there is one part which says that we should not be overwhelmed by the result. We should not have a lot of feelings for it, basically. Not result. Result is different, but a lot of feelings and all of that. So my thought is always, how can we deliver our best at a work when we are not emotionally invested in the outcome? Again, not the result bit. If we can go once to that slide, sir, I'll just read out the exact line
Yes, I will.
that
I
I
will.
wrote for.
I will. One second. Let me locate the slide, which was probably here. Three gunas of Prakriti.
That
No.
comparison, first one when you started,
Yeah,
when you were speaking of the.
okay, even earlier. This one?
Yes,
This one?
yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So in this, when we are saying that we should not, we should have, we should not have attachment. We should not have all of these things. That is, as when we must not be getting excited. When we must, it must not. Typically, what we say is a lot of passion, a lot of excitement towards what we want to deliver, a craving. All these words that we have used here, in a typical context, we don't see it so negatively. We must be having a craving for a positive result, for growth, and how do you sort of say that despite not having all of these, we'll be able to get the best results in a situation.
How do you define the best result? What do you mean by the best result? What exactly is the best result in your mind?
So, for example, if I give two contexts, like when we are at a workplace and
Hmm.
we are aspiring to deliver a certain sales target, very, very simplistically speaking, right? So, unless and until you are driven by the result, unless and until you are driven by the passion for that day to day goal, it might be very difficult for you to consistently be invested in all the things that is required. And in a very sharp contrast, as a mother, I'm a mother to a 6-year old.
Hmm.
Unless I am very invested in her upbringing, in the kind of exposure I want to give her, or in the type of, whether it is materialistic or spiritual exposure that I want to give her, there is a certain amount of effort and this thing that will have to go into it. So how can I be detached from both these goals and yet have the whole best self of myself? I'll have good days, I'll have bad days, I'll have not so healthy days where I'm not able to bring my best self either to work or to being a mother. But then that's when the excitement and the purpose and the passion sort of gets you going. So this is where I find a little bit of conflict, that how does one not be attached yet deliver the best?
Yeah, very good question. And this question comes again and again, and it should be reflected upon multiple times. It's not enough to just answer it once. The idea is like this. Very first thing we should understand is that any kind of detachment from anything is possible only by another attachment. Detachment is not absolute. Detachment is relative to some other attachment. So, to give you an analogy, when we are children, we are attached to certain types of toys. But as we grow up, those toys become, we become detached from those toys. We become attached to different other toys. As we grow up even further, we become attached to gadgets, maybe laptops, iPads, and so on. That's today. So our attachments in life change, and we don't realize it, but we have become detached from something that we were previously attached to. Exactly the same thing applies here. Here, Sri Bhagavan is talking about, the Gita is talking about detachment from the results of the activities. Okay, so if we have to be detached from them, then we have to be attached to something else. So, what is meant by that here? Uh, Detachment from the results of the activities means that the results are no longer the source of either our happiness or our distress. But what is our source of happiness and distress? Our connection with that Supreme. In the sense, we realize that now the goal of my life is not merely to make money, it's not merely to have a career and become the CEO of this company or to get a social position. That is not just the goal of my life. That may happen in my life, but the goal of my life is to discover myself, is to discover Sri Bhagwan who is inside me, and to enjoy that connection, experience the joy of that connection with Him. So now, when the goal has changed, the attachment to that goal is what creates detachment from this particular thing. Because we are now attached to that goal, we are able to do our work, or we redefine our work, the same work. We redefine that work in terms of a sense of duty. Earlier, somebody who did not have that attachment to the self or to God might have thought, uh, you know, my goal of my life is to eventually, by the age of 40, I should have become the vice president. By the age of 45, I should become a CEO and I should be earning a 10-figure salary, whatever. So, goals defined like that show us that we are oriented in a particular way, and attachment comes to the fruits. Misery and happiness comes if those fruits are achieved or not achieved. But now, all activities remain the same. They are done as a matter of duty because everybody has to perform their duties. That is an injunction that Sri Bhagavan gives in the Bhagavad Gita. Duties cannot be avoided. So now we are doing our work because it's pleasing to Him. So taking care of one's child, achieving sales targets, like we just said. For example, now you have to achieve your sales target, but your goal in achieving the sales target is no longer driven by the craving for the promotion that you will get or the increment that you will get. The increment will anyway come because it's a matter of the organization's policies. But you are not craving for increment and doing that sales target. You're doing the sales target because you have to do it as a duty. It's part of your duty. Similarly, you're no longer taking care of your child thinking that today I'm going to take care of my child because the child is small, but tomorrow the child will take care of me when I grow old. And I want to give my love so that the child will love me in the future. Some people think like this. So that thinking no longer is there. It's a matter of duty. Loving the child becomes very spontaneous in that case. And everything is a matter of duty. And so this is how detachment develops. Attachment to something else, attachment to a higher goal, a different goal, develops detachment towards a lower goal. That's all. But everything else remains the same. All the duties, activities, the work, everything, commitment remains the same. Does it address your question, Niharika?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. But this doesn't happen just by hearing from me or just hearing it once from somewhere. It has to develop, this mentality has to develop by repeated contemplation. That is why Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. That is the process. We hear something from somewhere or read it in the scripture, but then we have to reflect upon it every day. Reflect upon it, as because this doubt will keep coming back. What you asked me today will not be settled. It is settled now at this
Yes,
moment, right?
yes, yes. In
Yeah.
every situation, it will keep resurfacing in a different way.
Yeah. So you have to reflect on this. You have to keep reflecting. Yes, this is how I ought to think. And by reflecting on it repeatedly, day after day after day, eventually one day it becomes natural. You'll find that it has reached a point where it naturally comes to you. Then you don't have to, this doubt will no longer be there. You will naturally do all your duties happily without feeling that craving for that result. You'll feel that connection with yourself, with Bhagwan, very spontaneously coming within you. And that is the situation you should aim for. We should all aim for.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Any further questions or shall we close for today? If there are no further
Pranam,
questions.
sir, Akshat here.
Yes, Akshat, please.
Sir, if there is time for one quick
Yeah,
question,
there
sir.
is enough time,
Uh,
please.
sir, when we are talking about meditation and sadhana, and reflecting about Shri Bhagwan, is there any? As you mentioned, there are various manifestations of Shri Bhagwan, but is there a preference at any point of time for focusing on or concentrating on a particular manifestation? When we do sadhana, or when we're trying to get closer to Sri Bhagwan, or kind of on that journey of getting closer to him.
Normally, what happens is the form of Bhagavan that we become attracted to, it is largely driven by the guru that we take diksha from. We see how our guru understands Bhagavan, his orientation. For example, in some cases, in some sampradayas, the form of Bhagavan that is worshipped is Radha and Krishna. And even in Radha and Krishna, there are many variations. Krishna as Mukunda, Krishna is called Govinda somewhere, Radha Govinda somewhere, Radha Madan Mohan. Different names and different forms. There are variations in his form. Somewhere else, Sri Bhagavan is worshipped as Vishnu or as Ram, Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman. It's a different form. So there are different ways in which different saintly people, different sampradayas have worshipped Bhagavan. So what happens is that when one goes on this path, eventually one goes to a guru, takes diksha, understands the guru's mind. How does he say? What is his seva? How is he oriented towards Sri Bhagavan? And one then develops the liking towards that form. That is one way in which it happens. Otherwise, one may develop an attraction as one reads about, because one knows that whichever form he comes in, ultimately it's the same person with the same qualities. He has the same qualities, the same person, but he manifests himself in different ways. So one treats different forms with the same amount of respect. And eventually, over time, one may naturally develop a liking towards one form vis a vis another form. That is personal choice. There is no rule or injunction which guides that. To my knowledge, there is no such rule. It happens naturally.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mhm.
So just an extension, I was hearing something about what he just asked,
Yeah.
which also said that with phases of life, I think Sri Bhagwan to be developed connection also changes.
Hmm.
Considering at what phase or this thing of life we are in.
I would probably say phase of not biological phase, but spiritual phase. As one evolves spiritually,
Yes, yes,
I guess that's what you meant.
yes, 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 absolutely.
Um, Thank you. We are having good questions today. Anyone else? Okay. If there are no further questions for today, we will close for now. But feel free to write to me or call me, connect with me otherwise, and we can also talk one on one. I will close with the Antyamangalam. ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमस्काराः धन्यवादाः